My name is Arin Lindauer, and you're listening to A Life Without Struggle. I'm a wife, a mother of 2 wonderful children, a 2-time best-selling author, and a highly driven and successful entrepreneur. In my 17-plus year career as a mindset and health expert, I know what holds women back from a life you only dream about. Whether you're a CEO, a businesswoman, or executive, I started this podcast because I have been where you are, and I know you want and deserve more out of your life. I believe women are limitless. We just get lost along the way. The process to get you there is the topic and purpose of this podcast. When you understand what you want, you can truly step into a life without struggle. Welcome, and I'm so thankful you're here. Welcome back to another episode of Life Without Struggle. My name is Arin Lindauer, and today we're joined by Tony Lindauer.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Awesome. Excited to have you. So today we're going to dig into a topic that is just so important for women, but it's also important for men. So feel free to send this to your husband. I know. He may look at you funny or with another eye, but here's the deal. We're going to talk into why you should put yourself first. So the title of this podcast is You First. And this is really going to be about the unselfish, selfless aspect of taking care of your health. Now, this seems super taboo because, the women were running around doing all these things. We're, taking care of a million different priorities. Yet here you and I, coaches in the health and wellness space, are asking women and men to stop the madness and take care of themselves.
Yeah, the prioritize, right?
Right.
So sometimes what we do is we get lost in the transition. We forget what is important, or maybe we prioritize things in a way that may not allow you, or should allow you, or it may not allow you to take care of yourself. What I'm saying there is we prioritize other people, we prioritize our children, we prioritize, sometimes people prioritize movies, sometimes people prioritize talk shows, whatever it may be, things that we have chosen to kind of move out of our existence. And, that's our priority, because once you prioritize and start designing things in your environment, you kind of stick to it, and that becomes who you are. And when we talk to so many people and coach so many people, they're like, hey, have you watched this show or this? And
I have no idea.
That movie. And we're like, it's kind of hard to have that conversation because we've kind of pulled that whole area out of our lives. And, for multiple purposes and reasons, because we've prioritized time with our kids and we prioritize our health and wellness. So it really depends on where your priorities are at, I guess. Is that a good answer?
Yes, no, it's fair. But I think to kind of circle back though and just talk about this, because women will tell me all the times how busy they are, and they're volunteering here. They've got kids' activities there. They've got, aging parents, or all these different competing priorities, let alone if they're a working parent or a professional woman. And even I know this bleeds into a man's life. Why don't we take the time to take care of ourselves? Do you think people think it's going to take a ton of time?
Yeah, I think there's a misconception. I think some of the stuff they see or exposed to mainstream media, marketing, whatever it may be, that they have to spend hours and hours in the gym. And it takes forever to do the perfect diet meal plan, which is
it's so untrue.
Yeah, it's a lot of misconceptions there from a marketing standpoint, I would say. Yeah. That people have a misconception of what it really takes.
Well, that's where I think, people like us being professionals in this industry, I mean, we can solve a lot of people's time problems or like a plan. And I think for myself personally, what makes our weeks go so easy and so smooth is really when we plan and we sit down and we understand, hey, here are the 5 different options of food that, we will have throughout the week. And then, I know Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I'm going to the gym, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, you're going to be at the gym, but it's planned out. It's not a surprise. Or, another thing too that I think is always interesting is if something happens and you can't get your workout in, I mean, what do you do?
So that does happen. I mean,
Exactly.
that's reality. That's life. Things do happen. Things get in the way, and it's like, okay, what can I move around?
Yes.
What can I adjust? Is my partner, going to help me out? Of course, it's okay to ask for help. Can they cover, different time slots, or, hey, can somebody else cook dinner?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's just a matter of having that open lines of communication and making adjustments. And I think what happens with some people is if they don't get it at a specific time, it throws everything off. So They just give up.
Yes.
You have to have a little bit of flexibility.
I want to touch on that because so many times we have a lot of driven entrepreneurial, we have professional, type A driven men and women who we attract because I would say we're very similar, but we've also gotten very flexible in our mindset, in a lot of our training and understanding that, okay, if the workout didn't happen on Monday, guess what? It's going to happen on Tuesday. But for the most part, we always show up and we're very, very consistent. Our bodies love consistency. And that is something that I preach into existence so much with women because we have to continue to show up and create these new habits. And so where we wanted to go with this podcast here today is to help you understand how you're actually being selfish by not taking care of yourself.
You're calling them out.
I'm calling them out because it is, you think about in your later years of life, when you are wanting to enjoy and travel and do things with the grandkids and having, just these, you've worked your tail off your whole life. And then all of a sudden you don't have your health. I mean, how many times do we see this? And it's so frustrating to watch this because what was the point of life? Like, why did we work so hard? And then now we can't enjoy anything.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, that happens more than we would like to see. Being in this industry for 20 some years and working with all types of clients. And the saddest part, I think, was, and it still is, and being face to face in a facility, we'd have, a new customer come in, just retired, and their health was so far gone. And it was just sad to see. Because like they couldn't even get up and off the ground. No, and we did what we could to help them get from point A to point B. But man, they're in so bad in shape, so far along in their life that
they've missed out.
Yeah, and I don't know if they'll be able to turn it around. That was hard to see. Now, from an understanding of the importance of being physically fit, healthy. And what does that mean to you? Obviously, there's parameters from a doctor standpoint, from a society standpoint that they put us in, right? So, hey, you need to be percentage of body fat here. That's called healthy, right? Or your cholesterol's here.
I don't think any doctor's saying body fat percentage.
Well, they should be.
I know. I agree with you.
That's a whole nother podcast story and rant that we can go on.
Right.
BMI. I've had too many of those conversations, and I was like, if your doctor's not having that conversation about your percentage of body fat, you probably want to find a new doctor. Sorry.
Yeah, but they aren't. They're just still using the BMI, which is body mass index. For those of you, that's basically a height and weight chart, which, if we put LeBron James on that, he's considered overweight. Yeah. And so it's important for us to understand that people who we've held to a really high standard may not have all the understanding when it comes to what is healthy.
Yeah, I think some of that is still, they put them in a box and that's taught and pushed down from an insurance standpoint, which they wouldn't need to get rid of. again, it's a whole nother topic, but it's all, it's all good. So whatever your standard is, now we have certain standards for ourselves, and some of those standards are going to be the physical. And what does physical look like to you and mean to you? There's two components to that. One is I will always want to be able to do anything from a physical standpoint. I want to be able to go out. If I need to run a mile right now, I can run a mile. No problem. I can do it. Do I like running miles?
No, Tony is
Absolutely
not a runner.
Not. Hey, I used to be.
You're a sprinter.
Well, I had a run, didn't I?
So you were a runner.
Yeah, well, kind of. And that's always been important to me. And as I age, it's still going to be important to me. So being physical and being able to do physical things with our children, with our spouses, even as I get at a higher, age. And then there's the other component of physical is a physical appearance. What does that look like? Okay, what do you feel like when you look in the mirror? Do you have that confidence? Right. So we don't talk about that enough. And I know Arin and I have had a lot of conversations about this, is there is a desire to have your spouse look a certain physical way, because there's an attraction component, and that's a healthy relationship. That's natural. That's nature in its finest. So that's important, not only for me, for my own personal confidence builder. Then I understand that there's going to be, an attraction with obviously my spouse if I feel a certain way about myself and look a certain way.
Yeah. And I think too, from a woman's perspective, is we just want to look in the mirror and love who we see. And we want to be able to wear any of the clothes in our closet. We want to be able to go into a store and be able to buy anything off the rack. And those are common things that I hear from women all the time. But even myself, when I look in the mirror, I want to be like, okay, dang. But I want it for myself, but I also want it because I know for you. And I know that the physical attraction is important no matter what people say. Like, it matters. And 100%. I think we've gotten into a society where it's like, oh, it doesn't matter. Well, it actually does. I mean, everybody gets judged the second they walk in the room, 100%. Whether you like it or not, whether it's right or wrong, there is a judgment that happens that is just part of human nature. But I think to take this back too is, like you were saying, being physically able to do anything. I think that's really important for a woman too, is we need to be able to take care of ourselves. I always joke, like, I need to be able to carry all the groceries in one swoop. Now, depending on the bags, paper bags make it a little bit more challenging to do that. But I think about too, I was at a field day at our kids' school last year, and there was a bounce house. And do you think I wanted to go into the bounce house? I'm just going to be honest, I really didn't. But I saw the look on, Livia's face, and she was just like, come on. And I was like, all right, here we go. But I saw another mom, oh no, baby, no. And she told her daughter, no, I'm not going in that thing, which I can completely appreciate, because once I got in there, those kids were savages, but I bounced a couple around and had a good time. But I think this is what's important, is we have to understand that when we take care of ourselves first, when we have a high standard of health, you really can do anything, and it's going to bleed into all areas of our life. Wouldn't you agree?
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, and I would not like to be sitting on the sidelines if my child wanted me to come do something physical with him. I've not experienced that, and nor would I allow that to happen. Now, I know some people have let their physical component dwindle where they can't, and I feel for you, and I think it's important for you to, obviously do some evaluation, and, it doesn't take a lot to get you going in the right direction. And I think some people get discouraged and think that, it's going to take a lot more work than they have. But being present with your kids is so important, in teaching them the physical, and it's so important for them to be physical and be out and see you doing things, because they're going to mimic you. So that's so important from my perspective, and like Arin just said, from her perspective. And I think from our perspective as having young kids, longevity and the quality of life, and how long we take care of ourselves and be present, not only from physical, because we're missing a whole other component, and that is being able to manage our stress really well. Because if you're in better health and better physical condition, you're able to manage a stressful situation a lot better, but also from a cognitive standpoint and energy. So being able to communicate really well at the end of the day, because, we all get tired. But again, if your health is a priority, there's a lot of cognitive components and obviously the energy component. Those are all important. And, until you experienced it on one side or the other, you may just push it off to the side. But I've seen it from a coach's standpoint. And it's hard to see some of the components where somebody did not take care of themselves and started letting their physical component go.
Right. And so now that we've smashed everybody's faces into the ground that you got to take care of yourself, and it's not selfish to take care of yourself, but it's figuring out the how. So I think there's a couple topics that we need to go, or a couple angles we need to go with this conversation in helping folks out there is, okay, it's important to take care of yourself. We got that. We understand that. But we also understand there's only so much time in a day. There's only so many days of the week that we have the availability to do things. And so I really want to speak into, you got to take care of yourself, but we got to figure out the how. And then we also need to understand the why. So which would you want to go first? Why or the how?
Let's go with the why. I mean, because that's, coaching, so many individuals, so many men right now. And that's one of the first components we really talk about is really digging and understanding why is this important for you. So let's go down that rabbit hole for a little bit, and we won't beat you up too much.
No, it's all good. I just, the why we take care of ourselves is the most important thing we can understand. And I think if you catch the theme across this entire series of podcasts is we're always going to come back to, what is it that you want? What do you desire? But why do you want it? And it's okay to say vanity metrics. It's okay to say, you want to feel sexy. You want to feel confident. You want to be a size whatever. And I think then taking it a whole nother level, saying, hey, what is that actually going to do for you? When we think about longevity and aging and feeling really good in our own skin, it's going to start with some very foundational things of taking care of yourself, but go even deeper. Like, what is this going to do for your relationship? What is this going to do with how you show up in the boardroom? What is this going to do when, you come home at night and your partner just wants to, kiss you? Like there's so many things that this goes into that we really have to dig deeper in understanding, what do we want from a desire standpoint, but then why is that even important to you? Tony, when you think about your why, like, would you care sharing why?
I mean, I think it goes back, there's a bigger purpose, and you may want to do some self-reflection on this. The purpose, for me is I'm a coach by heart. I want to see people win and be successful. So from a leadership standpoint, I'm my number one asset, and I have to take care of myself and lead by example and help inspire other people to come along with me. That's one of the purposes and desires for me to take care of my health. Then obviously this trickles down into the relationship I have with Arin, the relationship I have with my children. I lost my father at a young age, so I understand what that is like, not having a father present. And, some of my drive is being present with my kids, and being physically fit and emotionally there and being able to show up as a father that I didn't have. I mean, that's a big driver.
Yeah, it's huge. And that's where you need to go. For the listener that's listening into this is understanding what's really driving you. I will never forget, sitting on the deck at our lake house, and my grandmother made the comment, looks like Arin's putting on a little bit of weight. And there was a thing in our family that every woman got this big belly. And I know I've shared this a few times, but I feel, inspired to share it again here because that really marked an edge in me. I didn't want want to look like all the other women. I remember when I was pretty old and my mother got asked, "Oh my gosh, when are you due?" And she wasn't pregnant. And I remember just being mortified for my mom, let alone, I can't remember what my mom, I know she snapped back at the person, which rightfully so, but she did, when you looked at her, she did actually look pregnant because of how the stomach was. And I know for a lot of women that happens. We put weight right on our belly, and a lot of that comes hormonally, things like that. But on the flip side, I just remember those things so distinctly as a kid that I was like, oh my gosh, I do not want that, let alone then the health concerns that have been, just devastating for I know my family. And so my why really gets drawn from that. And, I hate to use that sometimes because, it's my mom and I love her and I care about her. But on the flip side, I also want a different future for myself, for my kids. And like you said, being a coach at heart, we got to walk the talk, right? We got to practice what we preach. It's so important. Yeah. I mean, that was one thing one of my college professors said. She made all of us go, you'll love this. She made all of us go and run a mile. And you should have seen some of these guys and girls not able to run a mile. And she lit us up, and I loved her for it. She goes, if you're going to be in exercise science and have this education, you better be able to run a mile. And I thought that was like fantastic.
Mile standards.
Well, a mile was the standard, but it was just, it's important to practice what you preach. And in this coaching industry, it does matter. It matters what we look like, how we carry ourselves, how we act outside, everything matters. And so we have to understand why we're so driven. I'm driven because I'm a role model for a lot of women. Mm-hmm. I'm a role model for these kids. I'm a role model for you. We inspire and motivate each other. And if we don't do that for each other, shoot, we can't do it for anybody, right?
Yeah, no, yeah. So the biggest thing, one of the biggest things is like you look around and you're like, man, everyone can win. Let's go win. We don't have to struggle like we do.
No, exactly.
So there's a huge passion of like, hey, we're going to pull everybody along with us, but hey, you have to do some work and effort too. We're going to guide you and make it simple as possible and change and reframe your mindset. But man, you can go win.
Everybody can win. And that's where we want to take this podcast and just inspire you to put yourself first. And so what this is going to look like is you're going to have to look at your schedule a little bit differently. You're going to have to evaluate, is everything that I'm doing right now really that important? Is this more important than my health? And I think you can really check yourself personally if you can go through your calendar and say, this is more important than my health. This is more important than my health. Because if you don't have your health, can you even do these things? Yeah. And that should be a wake-up call, but it's not always, because you may be saying, well, Arin, this is how I put food on the table. Well, Arin, this is, this is a non-negotiable. My boss makes me be here at this time. And listen, I got you, but listen, we all get 24 hours. We all get 7 days. Okay, we figure out how to make it happen. And this is really about shifting priorities and understanding how to squeak these things in. The other thing too is to understand you do not have to spend hours in the gym. You do not have to spend hours meal planning. But when you can start getting these pieces put together, this is actually pretty simple. Some things that we start with very simply is just adjusting nutrition. That typically means increasing protein, obviously understanding calories, but then it just simply is walking. What we found is if someone can just start moving their body, it's amazing how quickly you can see some adaptation.
Yeah, and the interesting part, and this is more from a marketing standpoint, they drive all these crazy, and you see all these crazy workouts and things that these young influencers are doing. And I just kind of chuckle because it's a misconception. Movement is good, and it depends because, in our program, what we like to do is in our first phase is kind of readjust and do a reboot. And the reason we do that is A, we got to figure out where you're at. B, we got to eliminate some of the bad habits and things that you've you've brought with you, and C, we may have to address some of the hormonal components, and some of the things you're doing may have impact on your hormone response. And just because you're working out, you think you're doing yourself a favor, and you may not be. So there's a really balance that happens with females, and it happens with males. The interesting part is with males, they probably don't talk about it enough. You're seeing more and more of it, but I've been working with multiple guys here, and it's a similar situation as females. It's not communicated as much.
Right.
So, and then obviously working out, it doesn't have to be hours in the gym.
No.
You know, a dosage of 30 to 45 minutes, three days a week, in and out, you're golden.
Right. Yeah. So I hope from this topic, we can really start to understand that, hey, it isn't being selfish to take care of yourself. It's not selfish to say, mommy needs to go to the gym. It's not selfish to say, hey, hun, please don't buy that. Please don't bring that kind of food home. Or, hey, this is what I want to put in my body instead. You know, I think a lot of this takes an element of communication, but it's also that desire. And understanding that you are worth it. You're worth it because I guarantee you have another face staring up at you. I guarantee you have a community that you've surrounded yourself with. There are people relying on you, and it's a disservice to not take care of yourself.
Yeah, I mean, you're the number one asset, and when you put effort and time and, you know, take care of yourself, everything else is going to get better.
Everything. And then we will end this on that, but everything in your life gets better when you have a high level of health. All right, go get them.